Okay, this video is extraordinarily late. Whoa, hey, come on now. Don't boo me. It wasn't my fault. It was that bitch Irene. I mean, who the hell does she think she is? Ravaging the eastern seaboard, knocking out power for days on end. Doesn't she know I have a video to make, damn it? Women. But that's over with now. I got my water and power back, so without further ado, let's get to business. Something that hurt this show was that the pacing felt off. The problem was the first hour had a bunch of pretty short matches, most of which should have been longer, and then the second hour had two pretty lengthy promo segments back to back, which as a rule I think you just shouldn't do because then the show really starts to drag. But this was more or less watchable, and there wasn't anything that had me jumping out of my seat, but nothing that really made me want to chuck my TV off the roof either. Well, except that one thing. The opening segment was Kurt Angle calling out Crimson for another promo. I thought this was good. They hyped up their match, they made it seem significant. Crimson seemed more comfortable on the mic than last week, and given enough time to practice, I think he'll be a perfectly fine talker. So this was some strong interaction between these two. Then Immortal came out. Because God knows we can't ever start a single episode of iMPACT without a freaking Immortal promo. And they didn't even really do anything. This really just amounted to Kurt telling all of them to stay out of the match tonight, which I was grateful for, admittedly. And that was pretty much it. If Hogan and Bischoff had been out there, this probably would have dragged on for 15 plus minutes, but the segment was over and done with in about 6 minutes and change. It was short and sweet, it did what it needed to do without going on too long, and it did it well. So this was a good segment. They had an X Division match with Kid Cash versus Jesse Sorensen, who I guess is doing the Alex Riley varsity sports gimmick, except he's a face. Cash cheated to win, and then they got separated afterwards, so that's going to be a feud now. And this was passable while it lasted, but it didn't really feel like an X Division match, mostly because Kid Cash doesn't seem to want to wrestle like that anymore. I like Sorensen. He shows potential, even though he looks like he's 12. But Cash I'm lukewarm on. He doesn't seem to have a whole lot in the tank at this point. I really don't see why they bothered signing him. I guess they wanted someone with some recognizability since a lot of the X Division mainstays are gone now, and they've got him playing this asshole bully type character, which he's not terrible at, I suppose. But if you wanted an X Division bully, I would have just put Tony Nese in that spot. His style would work perfectly for that. Plus, he's a young guy. I'm sure he's got more hustle in him than Cash does these days, but whatever. It's another X Division feud. I'm not going to complain about that. I'll give Cash some time, and, maybe he'll pick it up some. There was a 6-knockout tag team match with Sarita, Rosita, and Angelina versus Velvet Sky, ODB, and Jackie Moore. Because they're okay with working together now all of a sudden. ODB and Jackie are playing nice so they can score contracts, but I really wish they would both just go away. And based on her performance in this match, I really wish they would take Velvet Sky with them. Velvet's going back and forth with Sarita and Rosita, and something that just jumps off the screen here is how pathetically weak Velvet's offense looks. I mean, she's throwing these shots that are barely connecting. It really is a toss-up between her and Kelly Kelly for least convincing offensive moveset in all of mainstream wrestling right now. And I know I'm going to sound like I'm hating on Velvet by coming back to this again, but seriously, people, watch the match. She's so bad. I'm really trying to be fair about this, but there's just no way you can defend this woman's ring work. She's so bad. It's just embarrassing. Then there was the two really long talking segments. It first was Hogan, Flair, and Sting, where Hogan's trying to get out of the match with Sting, but Sting's still doing the whole Joker ripoff gimmick, acting like a damn mental patient. And if they really want to sell the seriousness of this angle and this upcoming match, Sting really needs to stop doing that. It just makes you feel like it's all a big joke to him. You can't take him seriously when he's doing this stuff, talking like an effeminate gay stereotype, wearing his "Why So Nervous" t-shirt that I can't believe TNA hasn't gotten sued for yet. Plus, I really just don't care to see this. I don't care about Sting versus Flair anymore. I don't want to see Sting versus Hogan. But it's going to happen whether I like it or not. I have to accept that. But what I can't figure out here is why Hogan is suddenly locked into this match. Who's forcing him to go through with this? The whole setup for it was literally, hey Sting, let's have one more match, and if you beat me, I'll give you Hogan. Woo! How does that in any way constitute a binding agreement? Hogan's the owner of the company, in kayfabe anyway. He's the one who makes the matches. Can't he just say, no, I don't want to do that? I mean, it's not like they signed a contract or anything. Flair just pulled that stipulation out of his ass. Maybe I'm thinking about this too much. I keep trying to make some kind of sense of this stuff, and then I constantly have to remind myself who's writing it, and that this is a pointless exercise because there's really no sense to be found here.
Oh shit! It's Vince Russo! What the hell is this all about?
Then they went to the AJ Daniels thing, and I don't know why this wasn't addressed the week before. I guess they didn't have time for it. Basically, Daniels kind of breaks down and says that he wants the rematch with AJ because he wants to know if he's still got it or if it's time to walk away from the business. Pretty predictable. This wasn't a bad segment. I mean, AJ's cut better promos, but Daniels showed some honest emotion here. It just frustrates me that this is all they can come up with for Daniels. This guy was a stud in ROH for the last year, and now he's crying because he thinks he doesn't have it anymore? It's stupid because any idiot can see that Daniels can still wrestle circles around about 95% of the roster. And this thing with him and AJ, yes, it does produce great matches, but it just feels so redundant at this point. Considering how many times they've gone back to the well with it, Daniels' character really should have moved beyond this by now. And the fact that he hasn't is just really lazy on the part of the creative team. They're writing Daniels into a box, preventing his character from growing or changing, and that's really sad because he could have a lot more to offer if they just let him. Then they had a backstage pre-tape where Robbie E finds Rob Terry, who apparently still exists, and asks him to be his bodyguard. Because the only character on this show who's possibly more eye-gougingly, sack-crushingly annoying than Eric Young, aligned with the absolute worst wrestler on the roster, is something that the writers think we need to see.
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
Is this necessary? You flat out admitted in this segment that Rob Terry sucks and everyone knows it, and yet you're still trying to find things for him to do? If you've realized that he sucks, why the hell don't you just get rid of him and Robbie too while you're at it?
You people are fools!
Then they did a 6-man tag match with Fortune versus Immortal, and it was a Falls Count Anywhere match because... well, just because. Duh. The action was good, but it got way too chaotic. They had to go to split screen just to show everything, and once that happened, it just got really hard to follow. This would have been so much better as just a normal tag match. And Russo, don't book a Falls Count Anywhere gimmick if you don't even understand the fucking stipulation. At one point, Gunner drops all these heavy-ass lockers on top of James Storm backstage, has him beat, but instead of pinning Storm right there and getting 7 points in the Bound for Glory series, Gunner just walks away. Why? Beats me.
This whole show is ridiculous!
Then there was the Angle Crimson main event, and the opening segment did succeed in making this look like a big match. Unfortunately, we didn't see either guy again until now, and the lead-in to this was the stupid-as-hell Eric Young crap. That didn't help. Now here's the thing with this. They didn't give it as much time as something that they were promoting as a big match should get. Plus, about a third of it took place during commercials. And then there was the finish. This was not a bad match. It was good, it told a story, Angle made Crimson look like a star. But you know how when you have a really long match and the wrestlers start out slow, and then they pick up the pace as the match progresses and they move into the next gear? It was like that, except the match ended before they reached that point. What we saw was good, but I wanted the stuff that was going to come next, and instead they just did a lame-ass DQ. I understand not wanting to give too much of this away for free. I understand not giving away the finish, but they've never been shy about pissing away pay-per-view matches on TV before, so I don't know why they're starting now. And this really needed more time, because the tension hadn't been built up enough before the DQ finish came. I mean, they were starting to do near falls, the crowd was just starting to get really into it, and then suddenly it was over. And instead of a big dramatic climax, you blew your wad too early. Another 5 minutes would have helped this enormously. And then they went to the backstage segment where Samoa Joe destroyed Crimson's leg. That was well done. I do like how they're finally making Samoa Joe look dangerous again. That's a long time coming. Although it seems like they do this same type of storyline with him every year or so. I assume this is probably how they're taking Crimson out of the Bound for Glory series without having him lose. And in my opinion, that's probably for the best. and to have him headline Bound for Glory this year would just be jumping the gun. Now bear in mind, I like Crimson a lot, and I do think he'll be the world champion sooner or later, but it's just too soon to pull the trigger on him. He's still improving. He needs more time, because rushing him to the world title before he's 100% ready for it could do more harm than good. Reference Jack Swagger. So I like this decision. Just take your time with Crimson, let him develop organically, and he'll get there. You don't have to hotshot him when you've got other up-and-comers that are more ready than he is, like Bobby Roode, who is probably a lot to win this thing now, and I think that's absolutely the right call. And if you're going to elevate any young star on the roster, Bobby Roode, he's the guy. So this week they're doing Impact on the road in Huntsville. Could they have done a better job setting that up? Yeah. But they did hype up some stuff for it, which they really should be doing every week, admittedly, but at least they did something. And the taping results look decent. You know, they certainly could have gone worse, and it sounds like they had a good crowd, which hopefully means they won't need the canned heat, and that makes me happy. So I'm looking forward to that, and with any luck, doing the show outside of the cast member zone will help with the ratings. And they could use some help with the ratings, because competition on Thursday night is just brutal right now. That's going to be it for this video. I gotta go do some laundry and clean all the spoiled food out of the fridge, so I should probably go do that. See you in a few days.